All right, let's talk about Poor Things. Poor Things, a very unique movie, very wild movie. I'm not sure if I've seen something quite like this. So I'll read the plot summary on IMDb. The incredible tale about the fantastical evolution of Bella Baxter, a young woman brought back to life by the brilliant and unorthodox scientist Dr. Godwin Baxter, who was also referred to as God throughout the movie. That's played by William Dafoe. Mark Ruffalo is also in this movie, and Emma Stone, of course, is the lead. First thing I feel like has to be mentioned is, the way that Yorgos Lanthimos, the director, made this movie. It's unlike anything I think I've ever seen before. There's a combination of sets and really creative, coloring throughout this movie that I found to be very fascinating, the way that all of that worked together. Don't know if I've seen something quite like this, both in the, just visual sense, but also in the, the way the story is told. So it is, something that I think has fascinated Yorgos Lanthimos in the past is the idea of social norms, especially when it comes to sexuality, which is very much what this movie is in part about. Is there's certain ways that we kind of just accept things. However, how much of that is just due to the society we currently live in and due to the way things are currently meant to be. If you got someone who can, learn at an accelerated pace, but is, essentially a newborn baby and just, immediately gets plopped into the world, what would they do? And what would they decide is normal? What would they decide is abnormal? And that's kind of what this movie is exploring in a very fascinating way. This is very much a feminist movie, and very much about the, way that certain men try to take ownership over women that they are trying to court, so to speak. So that's a very unique aspect of this film, and definitely this is a movie that was, shocking at times watching this film. A lot of nudity in this movie. So if that's not your thing, be warned now. And a lot of sexual content in general. Maybe not the one to go see with your parents. That might just be, I don't know. Maybe it is the one to see with your parents. I don't know your relationship with your parents. Just letting you know ahead of time. That is something you have to be aware of. Personally, I found this to be a very fun movie. In fact, it's almost just a straight up comedy, I would describe it as. I was watching it in a pretty packed theater. There was one guy in the front who was just having a blast. He was laughing. Belly laughs at every joke, which is always fun. In one of those situations happens. But as a whole, it was a very funny movie and a very amusing movie, and one that I do think there is some meaning behind that I'll talk about in spoilers a little bit at the end of this video. But again, if this is your kind of thing of, and I want to be clear, this isn't, I feel like, full art house the way some of Lanthimos' other movies have been. He's usually not someone who is, he doesn't make thrillers, right? Like, there is a bit of sitting in the world, but I do feel like this is one of his more entertaining movies. In fact, this might be his most just purely entertaining movie. I've seen, I believe, all his movies, although at least all his movies since Dogtooth, because it seems like he's made some other, stuff earlier than that I haven't checked out. He's done a lot of shorts and music videos and stuff. I haven't seen it, but, in terms of, full movies, I don't know. I thought The Lobster was very entertaining as well, but to me, this one does take the cake. Like I said, very funny, but also just very interesting and very fascinating, some of the topics that he's discussing. It's a 2-hour and 20-minute movie, but it does not feel that way at all. So definitely, I think, worth a watch, again, if you're not going to get squeamish about the sexuality and things like that. For me personally, I really enjoyed this movie. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10, I think. I can't go too much higher than that, and I don't really know why. I don't really have a big, negative as to why I wasn't, in love with this or anything. I just enjoyed it. I just had a good time watching it. And again, it's not like there wasn't more deep themes that it was getting discussed. Just, I don't know, it checked every box for me, but that's, but at the end of the day, I still almost left the theater wanting, I don't even know what more I wanted. So it's kind of a, not great job being a movie reviewer here, not being able to explain why I don't go higher than 8 out of 10. It does feel like it's the kind of film where they made the film they wanted to make. It's just maybe not my favorite of the year, so 8 out of 10, which is still a very positive grade, is where I have it. I have read online some, this is still not in spoilers yet, maybe some light spoilers, so if you're really spoiler adverse, you've heard my main thoughts on it, but some light spoilers before we get into full spoilers. Some people were talking about, wait, isn't this like a child essentially that is end up people are having sex with her, like, because that's the whole thing is Emma Stone essentially, William Dafoe's character, he finds her, she committed suicide while pregnant, and she puts the baby into Emma Stone's head. They did mention that the baby learns at an accelerated rate, so it's the kind of, I think the implication is that, I would say with the exception of Mark Ruffalo, who is a character you're not supposed to like, for the most part, you do see, I believe the implication is that Bella was consensual in terms of all of the other sexual acts, but not probably old enough to consent there. Movie maybe could have explained that a little bit better, but I believe that's what the movie was trying. That was at least my interpretation of what the movie was attempting to come at there. And again, I don't think that's a theme they were particularly interested in exploring of that aspect of it. It was more about the feminism aspect of it, which to really get into, I probably need to do it in spoilers, so let's just get into spoilers. Okay, give you a second to click off if you needed spoilers. 3, 2, 1. All right, let's get into it. Spoiler discussion. I mean, that was definitely, I think, an aspect of it is how, a lot of times women's sexuality and, women in general can feel like they are, pressured by the way society expects them to perform, right? The kind of clear example of this is Bella. If you haven't watched it but just don't care about spoilers, Bella chooses to become a prostitute because why not? She likes having sex and it's a way for her to make money. So, and it's an interesting thing for her. So it's a thing she decides to do. And, her experience ends up being pleasant with it. But despite that, she gets criticism. Again, I think some people have argued like, yeah, it's 2023. Like that's a topic that's been explored in the past. But at the same time, I still think it's a topic worth discussing. And this is a unique way to discuss it, in my opinion. So I was still fascinated by it. And there's definitely some talk about the ownership of Bella as a whole, including, the husband of the original, woman who killed herself is still wanting to, get his quote unquote wife back, and he's willing to, threaten to kill her if she leaves, despite the fact that Bella is a completely different person. I mean, it's his kid, but that doesn't seem to be why he's interested in that. He legitimately seems interested in, it's ownership of her body, literally. That's the text in the film, essentially. So, and there was other things that were, I wouldn't necessarily call this an overly subtle movie, but I also kind of feel like, I don't know, there's an obsession with subtlety, I feel like. Like, not every movie has to be the most subtle movie of all time. Sometimes we can just say, no, this is the point of the movie, this is the movie we're trying to say, right? Like, that's okay, too. You're allowed to make both styles of movies, and, another film that I couldn't help but think of when watching this was Dogtooth. I kind of brought this up in the beginning of the movie. Dogtooth is a movie about parents who raise their kids kind of isolated from the outside world. So they're, they have no idea what's going on. And again, slight spoilers for that movie, but maybe something you would even want to know going in, so you're not too shocked. So basically, the kids who are adults at this point end up, partaking in incest because for them it's normal, whereas obviously for us with our society it is not normal. So and that is kind of a similar idea that they're exploring in Poor Things, although in a very different way. So just a fascinating movie by Lanthimos. Again, I've always enjoyed all of his movies. I don't know if I've loved any of his movies, but I've always really enjoyed all of them. And, definitely a fascinating director. I'm always interested in seeing what he has to say next. Might be my favorite of his movies, actually, but still very fascinating. I really like The Lobster as well, though, so I don't know. But again, I liked all his movies. But yeah, those are my thoughts on Poor Things. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.